It's Talk of Iowa from IPR News. I'm Charity Nebbe. Later this hour, we will meet Iowa's new poet laureate, Paul Brooke. He is the author of 10 books and a professor of English at Grandview University. He is also a biologist and a former competitive arm wrestler. The man contains multitudes. That's coming up in about 40 minutes. But first, drive-in movie culture peaked in the 1950s. Back then, there were nearly 70 drive-in movie theaters in Iowa. The numbers dwindled over time, and these days there are only 4 drive-ins in the state. I grew up in Cedar Falls, very close to one of those shuttered drive-ins. In fact, we drove past Hillcrest Drive-In every time we drove into town, and we loved craning our heads to glimpse the screen through the car windows. The most memorable movie that I saw there was probably Clash of the Titans, which was truly terrible, but my brothers and I were all in on that one. And then we did also go pick up cans that had been tossed out of car windows early on Saturday and Sunday mornings, and we funded an entire summer vacation that way that year. We made the paper for that. This hour, we are going to meet the operators of 3 of Iowa's remaining drive-in theaters. And we want you to also share your drive-in memories, PG rated, please. You can email talkofiowa@iowapublicradio.org, or you can give us a call, 866-780-9100. In a few minutes, I will talk with Randy Lorenz of Bluegrass Drive-In, Iowa's newest drive-in theater, and Sarah Clausen of Voice 61 Drive-In near Maquoketa. But we're going to start with Iowa's oldest drive-in, Valley Drive-In in Newton. Jeff Naminga is co-owner. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being here. And
not a problem.
Give me a little bit of the history of Valley Drive-In.
Well, that's a broad question. 1949? 1949 was the first run of Valley Drive-In movie theater. The first owner had it for about 10 years, is my understanding. Then Jim and Barb held it for about 40 years. Wonderful people. Cared for it like it was their baby, and then gave us the opportunity to carry it on for the last, well, this is our 11th season of running it. So if my math doesn't work, give me a little break, okay?
So what made you want to own a drive-in?
Well, I enjoy movies. But more than that, it's just cool. I don't know how else to say it. I probably sound a little cheesy because I think the nostalgia and the atmosphere of what the drive-in brings is just awesome. And when my wife grew up here in Central Iowa, and when we moved back to this area, I found out there was a drive-in movie theater. And my wife had never been to it. And I started taking my kids. Like, we would just run up there and go do it. And I thought, this is just one of the coolest venues. It's just a cool thing to do, and little by little I got up enough nerve to chase down the owners and find out what was going on, and got the opportunity to take over. So
for people who haven't had that drive-in experience, and of course every drive-in experience is a little bit different, I get the sense that a lot of what you love about it is not just the movies, but the community feeling about it. Tell me what's magical about going to a drive-in for you.
You know, the other night is a great question, and for people who haven't gone to a drive-in, I'd highly recommend it. But the other night is a great example. I was walking around outside in the lot, and cars were pulling in, and I think people who have never been to a drive-in maybe don't even understand that, but I kind of call it like tailgating right before a game. We'll have people that are in line, by 5:30, 6 o'clock, and we'll open the gates, by 6:30. But the movie doesn't start till it's dark. So, it's 9 o'clock before the movie starts. So people are there for hours. And as I'm walking around the lot, you're watching people playing board games as a family or with friends. We had a great wiffle ball game going with some teenagers all the way down to kids that were probably, 6, 7 years old. So you don't see the sitting on your phone just scrolling. You see people interacting. You see some kids playing soccer or people playing bags or whatever the case may be. So it's a little bit of a step back in time. I think it's this is where I sound cheesy, so you got to, clean me up a little bit. But it's a little bit of a step back in time. Everything slows down, right? You show up, you're okay to wait in line in the concession stand. You duck your head because the building's so low, you don't want to hit your head when you walk in. you just feel like you're stepping back a little bit, and everything slows down, and you're relatively, I think everybody's nice to everybody there. Like, it's just a great thing it sounds really cheesy. Please don't make fun of me, but it's a beautiful step back in time.
One of the reasons that drive-in theaters closed is because it's hard to make a profit running a drive-in. I mean, especially here in Iowa, we don't have California weather. So
yeah, it does. It snows here. Yeah.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
So what's your season? How do you make this work?
So I have a business partner that we do some other ventures with, and so he's involved in this as well. We both have what I call real jobs. So we both have other things that that's what we actually do. The drive-in, it's not an income source for us, and we're very fortunate to be in that position. That's part of why the previous owners gave us the opportunity to care for it, because there's a situation where sometimes it needs capital to keep things renovated or fixed up, and it doesn't always turn a huge profit. We try really hard to keep it very family friendly. We keep our ticket prices incredibly low. We try to keep our concessions low, and again, it's a fortunate position for us, because we're bad business people when it comes to the drive-in. Can I put it that way? We're not. That is not why we're running the drive-in. So
it's a labor of love for you.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I hope that I don't have to write a huge check just to keep it open. The tornadoes and derechos and things of that have caused some of those challenges. But
right, you had to put up a new marquee after the derecho, right? And that cost, $40,000?
Well, the tornado blew a hole through the old one, because we try to keep the old stuff for that nostalgia. But, with a hole through the middle of it kind of made that challenging. So, yes, we put up a new one. It was about a $40,000 marquee, but it's beautiful, and I think it adds to the place. So the only way to make it work, to answer your original question, is, unfortunately, I think you have to have other things going on in your world. The season is too short. Studios are pretty proud of their movies, so they take most of the money on the tickets. So it's a tough industry all the way around. And when you have such a short season and you have weather impacts even during the season, it's difficult to make it run as a business. So it needs to be something that is cared for and loved, and hopefully just ran so that we can keep them around.
And you're open 4 nights a week in the summer, Wednesday through Saturday. You do typically show first run movies. How many cars can you have in your lot?
Yeah, we made a decision a few years ago to limit that. We used to have nights where we didn't have any limit previously, and we had nights that were crowded. And so we limit the traffic to 175 cars, just to try to make it as good of an experience for everybody that comes out. We hate, if it's jam-packed and you can't see and the bathroom line takes you an hour and a half, that's not really fun. So we do limit the traffic. We do offer tickets online ahead of time, so we also don't want people to drive out. We have people that'll travel a couple hours to get to us. We don't want them to get there and be, sold out when they get there. So we do recommend that people pay attention to what's, ticket sales are happening online. You can always buy them at the gate if we still have tickets, but I hate for you to show up if we're sold out.
Jeff, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Hey, pleasure. Thanks for having us on.
Jeff Nominga is co-owner of the Valley Drive-In in Newton, the oldest drive-in in Iowa. We're going from the oldest to the newest. The Bluegrass Drive-In opened in September of 2014. It has 4 screens, kind of a cube in the middle of the drive-in. Randy Lorenz owns it along with his wife, Terry. Hello, Randy.
Thanks for having us.
Well, thank you so much for being here. So what prompted you to open a drive-in theater in 2014?
Well, I was on vacation one time and drove by a drive-in and said, hey, why don't we have one of those in the Quad Cities? So I did my research and found out that, we have 500,000 people within 30 miles. So that was a good indication that we could survive.
All right, even though it was something where all the drive-ins were closing all over the country or had closed by the time you decided to open it. Tell me a little bit about the environment at Bluegrass. So like I said, you've got 4 screens, so people come. What's it like when people come for a movie?
It's kind of like what Jeff said. It's people come out early. We have people in line. Our gates open at 6. We'll have people in line at 5 o'clock. They come out. They sit around. They have a good time. They throw the baseball. They play on our basketball stuff. They use our jumpy house or slide. They just come out to have a good time. So much different than an indoor theater.
And they're not, obviously they're not just going to see a movie. They are going for the experience. They're going to spend probably 6 or more hours there, right?
Correct. They do spend quite a bit of time there. And we've got a lot of stuff for them to do. They bring their own stuff. Some of them will bring, bags, or they'll have like checkers or whatever. They come with their neighbors as well.
You are open 7 days a week. You've got 4 screens running. You do a lot of new movies, right? But you also do some retro films?
Correct. We have 3 screens that we play new releases on, along with a secondary movie. So we have 2 movies on each screen that are different. And then we have we call it a retro movie screen. So like this weekend we start with E.T. and Goonies.
Nice.
And you can bring in as many people as you want legally to fit in your car for $20.
Nice. That sounds like a complete blast from the past. We have to take a short break. We are going to be back in just a moment, and we will talk more when we come back. Randy, so stay with us, all right?
Thank you.
Randy Lorenz is co-owner of the Bluegrass Drive-In. It opened in September of 2014. We'd love to hear your drive-in theater memories this hour. Email talkofiowa@iowapublicradio.org or call 866-780-9100. This is Talk of Iowa.
A big buttered popcorn and an extra large Coke. A few chili dogs and man, I'm going broke. Down at the drive-in. Yeah, at the drive-in. We love the drive-in.
It's Talk of Iowa from IPR News. I'm Charity Nebbe. Coming up in 20 minutes, we will meet Iowa's new poet laureate. His name is Paul Brooke. Right now, though, we are talking about drive-in movie theaters. And if you have drive-in movie memories you'd like to share, give us a call. 866-780-9100. You can send email to talkofiowa@iowapublicradio.org. Iowa only has 4 drive-ins remaining, and we are talking with the operators of 3 of those drive-ins this hour. Coming up in just a moment, I'll talk with Sarah Clausen of the Voice 61 near Maquoketa. With me right now, though, is Randy Lorenz. He co-owns the Bluegrass Drive-In. It opened in September of 2014, so it's the newest drive-in in the state. And Randy, I know that most of the probably all the drive-ins that we're talking to today, they've updated their technology. A lot of us remember those tinny speakers, and sometimes you'd park in a spot where the speaker didn't actually work, and then you'd have to move, and it wasn't a great sound experience. How has your technology changed? Or I guess it hasn't changed for your drive-in, but what kind of technology do you use?
So in 2014 is pretty much the time when everything went to digital. So we all have digital projectors now. So we get our movies through either satellite or they send us hard drives and we play them that way. As far as the sound, it goes through your FM radio. And we have 120 radios that we rent for $5, so people don't have to sit in their car and listen to their radio. They can sit out in front of their car and use one of our radios and listen to it. We also jump about 3 to 4 cars every Friday and Saturday night.
Oh, really? So their batteries do run down. Okay, but you're prepared for that.
Yes, we are. We have 2 jump packs for that.
All right, so you've got free mini golf while people are there. You've got a bounce house. There's a $2 charge for that. You added a basketball hoop on a grain wagon. You've got a playground. So you've got a whole lot of stuff going on as these families come and gather. Do you have, thinking about events that you've witnessed over the past 2014, do you have a highlight for something that you did where you thought, wow, this is really working?
Just, and I know that you talked to Jeff a little bit about it, but it's so cool to see families and friends come out and enjoy themselves and thank you for being there. That's the ultimate thing.
Well, Randy, thank you so much for talking with me.
Thank you very much.
Randy Lorenz is the co-owner of the Bluegrass Drive-In. They opened back in September of 2014. Now, our third drive-in of the day, Voice 61 near Maquoketa, is almost as old as the Valley Drive-In. It opened in 1950. Sarah Clausen is general manager, and the third generation involved in the drive-in, her grandfather, Dennis Voy, owns the theater. Hello, Sarah.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So how did this drive-in become a part of your family?
My grandpa just randomly bought it over a cup of coffee one morning.
Okay. Why?
He, at the time, was in the radio business, and one of his friends was selling the drive-in and pitched it to him that it would be so easy for him to advertise on the radio, and it was 2 businesses that went well together, and he said, all right, and here he is 54 years later.
So, I mean, it obviously also became a real labor of love for him. Tell me about your first memories of the drive-in.
Oh, gosh. He's had the drive-in longer than me. So
Yeah.
I've grown up there. We spent many nights there. We'd always argue over who got to go out with Grandpa to check on business for the night. And we cleaned in the morning. We popped popcorn at night. We spent a lot of time there growing up.
And was this your first job, I'm guessing?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Everybody in the family. And tell me how the business runs now.
So Grandpa owns the drive-in still. He gets out there a few times a season, and he loves to just sit and people watch. That's his favorite. I run the day-to-day, and then we have an amazing staff that works often.
All right. And you're open Friday through Tuesday, June through August.
Yes, correct.
Okay. When do you open for the year?
I get the itch to open in February. As soon as I'm sure the snow has melted.
I don't
we're
have
open.
the itch to go to a drive-in theater in February. But
we actually, this year was the first time in 75 years the drive-in has been open on Valentine's Day.
Oh my goodness.
There was still a smidge of snow on the ground, but it was fantastic. It was a great weekend.
All right. And you usually do Easter Bunny event early in the season. And what kind of rules do you have to follow as far as like showing movies based on your relationship with studios?
It is difficult. They basically dictate what we play for the most part. Our normal schedule, like you said, is the Friday to Tuesday, and that is pretty much controlled by the studios. We're given maybe a couple of choices to choose from. But primarily they tell us what to play. I have added a lot of special events throughout the years, and those we have more control over what we can play for those random events.
All right. And when people come, I'm getting the sense that there's a pattern here. But how do things work at your drive-in?
Like the other two said, it's all about the experience, right? I talk to so many people who will tell you about their memories at the drive-in, and they have no idea what the movie was. But they can tell you everything else about that night, about, the games they played and the people they talked to and the food they ate. And it's just that atmosphere and experience that everyone comes for. And I always feel silly saying this, but just like Jeff had said, it's a step back from life, and you are watching a screen while you're at the drive-in, right? But it's a screen-free experience, and that's what everyone loves about it.
And when people pull into your lot, like what kinds of things do you see? Because they're ready to settle in.
Oh, absolutely. It is an ordeal. Like we have some hardcore customers. We allow people to bring in their own food and drinks with them. So they'll have a full buffet set up. They've come with their air mattresses or even a couch. Like
A couch?
Yes. Okay. It is. They're legit. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we want people to share their memories. You are welcome to join the conversation. And of course, Sarah's going to stay with us as we talk about some drive-in memories as well. You can give us a call at 866-780-9100. You can send email to talkofiowa@iowapublicradio.org. Linda is on the line in LeClaire. Hello, Linda.
Hello.
Hi. What's your drive-in memory that you want to share?
Well, I'm almost 80, and so this was in the mid-60s, and I was a teenager, and my dad didn't allow the drive-in because he called them the passion pits.
Oh.
So I didn't go to the drive-in, but my boyfriend's cousin was in town, so I set him up with my girlfriend, and we all four went off to the drive-in. We snuck off. And there was a drawing for a car. It wasn't a brand new car, but it was a cute little Ford. And like a fool, I signed up for it. So when the guys went down to put the tickets with our names into the drawing, they were handed them to us when we drove in.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to move the car and play a trick on him. Well, I moved his dad's brand new Chevy and got it hung up on a speaker.
Oh, no.
And they finally found us. And when they announced who won the car, we didn't hear it because we were all trying to get the car unstuck. And finally they said, would Linda, and they said my last name, report to the concession stand. And I thought, oh, my gosh, my dad's here. He knows I'm here. I'm in trouble. And I went in, and there were balloons and confetti, and I'd won the car.
Oh, my goodness.
I had to go home. I had to go home and tell my dad there's good news and bad news. And I said, I won the car, Dad. And he says, well, good news and bad news is you won the car, but you're grounded. And back then, you were grounded in your bedroom with no radio. I had a deck of cards and played a lot of solitaire when I'd get home from school.
Oh, my goodness. How long were you
story.
grounded for, Linda?
3 weeks.
3 weeks, but you got to keep the car.
Come home from school, go to your bedroom. Yeah, my dad took me to pick up the car, and of course I had to sell it because I got it under false pretenses.
Ill-gotten gains, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I sold it and just put the money in the bank, but I learned my lesson not to lie to my dad again, I'm telling you.
Have you been to a drive-in since?
Oh, yeah. We loved the drive-in. You know, it was the old Oasis in Davenport, Iowa.
Nice.
And it was a lot of fun. So, no, I never went again until I was engaged.
Oh, Linda, thank you so much for sharing that memory with us today. You can give us a call, 866-780-9100, 866-780-9100. You can send email to talkofiowa@iowapublicradio.org. And back to Sarah Clausen, of course, we're talking about the Voice 61 near Maquoketa. And tell me a little bit about we've talked about when people come, they really spend time together. They spend time at the theater. It's a real experience. You draw often from a long way around. Can you give me an idea of how far away you're getting customers from?
Absolutely. We draw a large portion of our customer base from outside Jackson and Clinton counties, Cedar County, Jones County, Wisconsin, a lot from Dubuque or Illinois. We have all over.
And sometimes you allow people to camp?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We added that just a couple of years ago, and that's been very popular.
Tell me how that works.
So, we were just talking about before the show came on, it's a late night. Sometimes the movie doesn't get over until 1 or 2, and we have people who have quite a bit of a drive home, so they can tent camp in their vehicles. And what better way to cap off your evening of watching a movie under the stars than to camp under the stars, right?
Well, and you were allowing, am I right, Boy Scouts to camp there, and then you decided to extend this.
Yeah, that's how it started. Is we hosted a Boy Scout group yearly for quite a few years, and then I was like, well, why are we not offering this to everybody? And it's been very popular.
Why do you think people want to camp there?
I think primarily because it's a late night.
Okay, all right, just so they don't have to drive. In addition to the new movies that you show, you also do show some older films, including Twister.
Oh, yes.
Why is Twister such an important drive-in movie experience?
Twister and the drive-in just go hand in hand, right? And we play it at least once, usually twice a year in the spring and the fall. My grandpa, Dennis, and I always joke it's the only night we hope for bad weather.
So the worse the weather, the better.
The better the attendance. Absolutely.
That seems very, very sensible. And this is obviously a real labor of love for you. This is not your primary job either. Nope. It's definitely, you pour a lot into it, but it's very rewarding. And so financially, does it make sense to run a drive-in? I mean, I think you have to be all right getting paid in love and memories. And I mean, I'm sure you don't have to be there every time a movie's showing. You don't have to stay up all night. How often do you have to be out there? I'm usually there every day during the day, and then I'm usually there 5 nights a week. But my staff always gives me a hard time that the word Sarah and closing don't go in the same sentence. Like, no, Sarah likes to be home before 10 o'clock. That makes sense to me. All right, we've got another memory. This one also from Davenport. Debbie is on the line. Hi, Debbie.
Hello.
Hi, what's your memory?
Well, we lived right behind the Bel Air Theater in Davenport. And it was during the 50s and the 60s. And before the trees would leaf out, and in those early days they weren't very tall, we could see the feature from our back porch. And it was just lovely. You could sit out, and as time went by, like I say, I watched the King of Kings 7 times all week. But could you hear it? Yes, we could hear it. And like I said, I fell in love with Jeffrey Hunter's blue eyes. It was just a big experience for us. And our neighbors even wound up getting one of the little speakers and put it in their backyard. Oh my goodness. But the Bel Air's all gone. Like I say, we felt really lucky because we didn't have to wait in line to get into the drive-in because we were right there. All we had to do was step outside the kitchen. And also, like I say, we also had the Oasis Theater here, and we also had the Memory and the Semory over in Rock Island in Moline. And we just had a lot of fun. We had a lot of good times. Debbie, thank you. When I first learned how to drive, I brought my sisters to see The Jungle Book. Oh, nice. That was great. Nice. Debbie, thank you so much for sharing your memories with us. Steve is on the line in Story City. Hi, Steve. Quickly, what would you like to share?
Mine is actually about the Maquoketa Drive-In. In the late 70s, my cousins and I used to sneak back into the cornfield near the movie and watch the movies for free. They lived near Maquoketa. And we found on the AM radio that you actually could pick up the sound. So we did that several times, and I apologize to the owners right now.
Are you shocked to find out that this has been going on, Sarah?
No, I was just talking last week, and someone had asked me if it still happens. And I was like, well, I don't think so, but maybe I'm just oblivious to it and not realizing.
Oh, Steve, thanks so much for that. James wrote, great show. I'm 62 and have many great memories of the drive-ins here in Des Moines, which are sadly all gone. I went to Valley High in West Des Moines, so the Plantation was our closest drive-in. We used to sneak friends in the trunk of the car or that very small space behind the driver's seat of a pickup. We'd play Frisbee and sometimes bring in a pony keg of beer and couches. So much fun. And I mean, obviously, people have a whole lot of fun with this. It also means you're picking up a lot of trash in the morning. Are people a little more respectful than they used to be?
Absolutely. We started handing out trash bags to every vehicle that comes in, and that has helped a lot. But we do have a lot of trash. When we were little, that was part of our helping, was we would go out in the morning and help clean, and we would get distracted inside while my grandpa would go drive around the lot and toss coins out the window to keep us motivated.
To keep you motivated. Oh, I love that. Sarah Clausen, you've got your first family night of the summer coming up this
Tomorrow,
week?
yes.
Tomorrow.
We're showing Free Willy.
Nice. And free train rides for the kids. And
free face painting, $10 a car to get in. We've got all sorts of stuff going on. It's going to be the place to be.
All right. A whole lot of fun. Sarah Clausen, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Sarah Clausen is general manager of Voice 61 near Maquoketa. We've been talking about remaining drive-ins in Iowa this hour. This is Talk of Iowa from IPR News.
To the girl sitting by my side. Saturday night at the movies. Who cares what picture you see?
It's Talk of Iowa from IPR News. I'm Charity Nebbe. Paul Brooke is the newest poet laureate of the state of Iowa. His 10th book, Finding Meteorites in Antarctica, will publish this fall. He's an endowed chair and professor of English at Grandview University, and all of that sounds pretty standard for a professional poet. But Paul Brooke has never taken the expected path. He is also a biologist who's traveled the world studying different species and taking extraordinary photographs of them, sometimes writing poetry about them. He is also a former competitive arm wrestler. He's full of surprises, and he's with me now. Hello, Paul.
Good morning, Charity.
Thank you so much for being here, and congratulations. Is this something that you'd had your eye on for a long time?
Yeah, actually for about 23 years, I've been thinking about it. So yeah, I saw Marvin Bell get it. I thought, gosh, that looks like a cool thing to do. So
Marvin Bell was our very first Iowa Poet Laureate.
Yeah, so I was keenly aware, you bet.
When did you get interested in poetry?
Really in high school, and then in college, I started getting more interested. And so I got published in Lyrical Iowa when I was in college. And I'm not going to read the poem because it's awful, but I was interested, and it sparked that enthusiasm for me, and I think that was the starting point for me.
And at the same time, you were studying biology, but this pull of poetry must have been very strong.
Well, it was. Also, the market for biologists was very poor.
Yeah, the market for poets is not exactly legendary for being great, Paul.
Well, I think it was, I don't know, maybe the lesser of many evils, but it seemed like a good idea. But I don't know, I thought poetry would be something I would do, on the side, but then it became more of an obsession. And then, if you really want something bad enough, you can find your way to a place where you can make a living at it sometimes. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So you, as I mentioned, studied biology, environmentalism, conservation. These are important ethics for you as well. So let's start with the beginnings of that. Where did your land ethic, your relationship with environmentalism come from?
Well, when I was a kid growing up in small town Iowa, so I lived in Trainer and then later moved to Minden. In Trainer, I got to work in 4-H, and I was spending lots of time at the farm. My dad was a coach, and he knew people, so I was able to find a way to integrate that in. And all of a sudden, I was thinking about pesticides and no-till, and thinking about all these issues and how to raise cattle properly. And I started to sort through all that, and I think that was the 5th, 6th grade. I was starting to think about those issues, and I remember spraying, we would spray herbicide. We didn't have any protective gear. We didn't think about it, So things have certainly progressed in terms of the way we think about how we treat the land and, how we think about things in Iowa, agriculturally at least.
So how have these really, maybe equally strong passions, how have they come together in your work and in your life?
I think for me, the big thing is to be interdisciplinary, right? You're trying to merge lots of different ideas, and it's across disciplines, and that I find that exciting. And so what happens is that you have more intersections. So people not only can, read the poem, they see an image or have, if there's art, attached to it in terms of book design, then that becomes part of that experience, right? It's a lot like we're talking about with like drive-in movie theaters, right? You have this experience that is, many different kinds of things happening at once, and that enriches the experience. And I think that's what I'm really deeply interested in. It's just not one-dimensional, and I think poetry isn't. I mean, really interesting poets are doing multiple kinds of, disciplines all at once. I find them the most intriguing.
You selected a poem to read for us today that really shows how you've brought these passions together. Could you tell us a little bit about it and then read us the poem?
Well, Charity, you've inspired this poem. It's true. You went out with Jim Pease and you were watching the greater prairie chickens.
Yeah.
And I went down to Lamoni, and there was one bird. It wasn't part of that lek, but he was on the side of the road just kind of doing his thing. So I, had this experience, and then I started getting worried about prairie chickens, as we all do.
Yeah.
And then here's the poem. So this uses Chardoma, which is a kind of Spanish form. So there's a kind of a kind of syllabic pattern to it. It's called Last Strut at the Honky Tonk. The refuge shut down, deep concern. Just two males haunt the lek. They're booming faint and fading, foggish. One appears along the main road, his throat orange, tinged purple, pointed feather antennae fully on display. Transfixed, I watch from a booth in a smoky country bar. He's a drunk cowboy dancing, trying to impress. All honky-tonk, all ironed blue jeans, crease crisp, tail shaking. He struts like a line dancer without a partner. In the ditch, I spend hours glued to each twitch, each strut. He stomps for me, smashing grass, lusts my dusty boots. Semis blow past, sending him scurrying into corn stubble, scared. Returns to dance on a string as it unravels. As it is with everything, history soils the frail, innocent are tilled under by greed and progress.
That is Last Strut at the Honky Tonk, inspired by the greater prairie chicken. And Paul, I love that so much. And it works on so many levels. It draws you in partly because it sounds fun, but it's also incredibly heartbreaking.
It is. It's like you think about how many there were, and I know and on your segment you talked about that, how many there were and then how few there are now, probably fewer than 70 or even fewer than that. And so like this really cool species that is really, I think a kind of symbol of Iowa, it would be really sad to lose that. And so there's a kind of inherent sadness with that. There's also a celebration of the beauty that still exists. And it's a tricky situation. So it's all wrapped into one. Then you have the metaphor, of course, which I hope works, but you're kind of walking a fine line, so to speak. So there it is.
Yeah. Well, and I got to go see those prairie chickens, and you got to go see those prairie chickens really as the numbers were declining even more dramatically in Iowa. They need contiguous habitat, and that's something that we don't have a lot to offer in Iowa. In 2025, the DNR canceled Prairie Chicken Day because there just really weren't enough birds for people to come see.
Yeah, I was aware of that as well, and it makes me very sad. And it's really hard to, as you know, when you're getting close to them, it's very hard to photograph them well because they're so far. They try to keep you far enough away you don't scare them.
Yeah.
And this bird was like within 3 feet of me, like because he didn't know any better. And then later, 3 days later, got hit by a semi. So you realize like it's so tenuous, and you're just like, oh gosh, that's really awful. And I was incredibly sad for many days about that because I loved him so much. He was so amazing, and then he was just gone, and that's how it works.
You have wanted to be poet laureate for a long time. And I know that this is a role that's very fluid. You get to, maybe you don't get reimbursed for all that you do, but you really get to sort of decide what you will do as poet laureate. And it does give you an opportunity to open doors in a way that maybe you haven't had that opportunity before. What are you hoping to do as poet laureate?
Well, I have big plans. I'm working on a grant that I'll finish up in January, and we'd really like to help connect underserved families with poets and artists. So we'd like to do some interdisciplinary work there. And then after having talked to Don Terpstra, I'd really like to see us put together like a city laureates program in maybe 6 cities throughout Iowa where we can have somebody who's kind of, no pun intended, waiting in the wings, kind of, learning the kind of poet laureate kind of ropes and then moving them up through the system. So kind of like a AAA club ready for the poet laureate slot. And so I think there's certain things I can do to facilitate that, but also just spreading the word. I think people really don't know a lot about poetry, period, and they're scared of it. And just introducing them to other kinds of ways of seeing poetry, visual ways, etc., could be really fun. And so and combining that with conservation and whatnot is, I think, a great way to influence people and to help them connect with that discipline.
I feel like poetry, the poetry scene has been growing in Iowa in recent years, and you've been a big part of that. There are many other people who've been working very hard on that as well. Why do you think there's been this growth in interest?
Well, one thing, I think Iowa's like a great place to be a writer. Like it's because you have time to dedicate to your craft. And so like right now this summer, like I'm off for the summer, because I'm a teacher, so I'm off. So I'm working on my craft. And then, we are very serious about that. So many poets I know in Iowa, like we're very serious about that. And we work really, really hard. And I think that that's been showing itself. And I think that's why more poets in Iowa and more writers in Iowa are getting their due, because we're really creating a lot of great writers, and that's exciting. So I think Iowa's way underrated in terms of what we're doing in terms of developing artists and writers, but we're doing that kind of good work.
Why do you think it's important to bring poetry to more people? What does poetry bring into someone's life?
Well, it gets you to move outside of yourself sometimes. It gets you to think about issues maybe you haven't thought about before. It also gets you to think about and reflect on self, right? What kind of person am I? What kind of kindness do I bring to the world? How does someone else see the world? And so when you begin to look, at the world in a different way, then that gives you multiple angles to see things, not just one way. I think right now a lot of people are in tunnel vision. It's hard, to talk to somebody, on either side of the political aisle or whatever. And this is a way for us to have conversations and to connect. And I do think it does that. Yeah.
How do you feel you are able to use poetry to amplify this message that you want to share about environmentalism and conservation?
Well, I mean, once you show someone an image, or once you create an image for them in their mind, they begin to care more, right? I mean, you read the poem about the prairie chicken and you can't help but feel somehow moved, and you feel sad that prairie chicken lost its life, and you begin to associate some kind of emotional baggage with it. And I think that's what good poetry does, is it moves people, and hopefully to an action or to a feeling. And that is the mark of strong, a strong writing style and feeling in poetry. You,
in your work, in your life, you have sought out experiences. You have been to the Patagonia. Just recently, you were in Florida out with python hunters. Why were you doing that? What took you there?
Okay, so I'm doing a book on environmental issues from across the world, and so I'm doing poems and nonfiction and poetry. So I'm combining all that together. So I really wanted, and I just finished the poem, one big poem yesterday that I've been working on for a while. But to feel that, to go out with them, and they're harvesting 2,000 pythons a year, maybe more.
Because they're an invasive species.
Florida, right? Yeah. They've knocked out about 98% of the mammals in Florida. They've eaten them. I didn't see a raccoon, a possum, anything in like the Everglades. Like I didn't see one, not a single one. That's a bad sign. So we're concerned. And so how many are there? There are 150, 200,000 of these things, probably. We went out radio tracking them, and we walked by these things. You didn't even know they were there. the camouflage is amazing. And these are big, big animals, like 10, 12. The woman I went out with, Donna, she caught a 17'6" 2 weeks ago, foot snake.
Wow.
And that can eat a full-sized deer. So these are, So you're thinking, okay, how can I then transmit this to people and show them what's going on? And then we need to have a conversation about invasive species anyway. Florida is really the testing ground for that.
Yeah, Florida is kind of a poster child, and there are also some other places where you can tell really dramatic stories about invasive species. But of course, here in Iowa, we have those stories too, and you're focused on telling those stories here as well.
I'm interested in all of it, but I think with Florida, it's a much more dramatic situation. So it's easier for me to like tell the international story. And then people can apply it to their own states, right, or their own countries or whatever. So whether it's I'm looking at stag beetle populations in like Europe, or the alpine ibex that's come back from near extinction in places in Europe. So I'm just trying to find my way through all these issues and show people like these are the issues that are going on, and then hopefully coming up with some solutions. They're thinking about using acetaminophen to push back the python population, and that's very controversial, but it could in fact destroy most of that population. So, ethically, should we do that? I mean, these are hard questions and not simple solutions.
Bringing your poetry and your passions back to Iowa as poet laureate and sharing poetry, but also these stories of conservation, what do you hope to inspire people in Iowa to do?
Read more. That's a goal. Read and think and, reflect on self. I mean, if you do all that, that's pretty sweet. And then I just need to get out and move around the entire state. And that's my plan in the next couple of years, is to do that.
Yeah. Are you already setting up appointments? Are you already?
I'm starting to see it all kind of fall into motion. And so I'm sure it'll be more than I can expect, but I relish that. I mean, I love meeting new people. I love those experiences, and I love presenting to people and helping them find their voice, and that's exciting to me.
You're telling these big stories about conservation, about invasive species, also about efforts really at restoration. Iowa's the most altered landscape of any state in the country, but also our landscape is more subtle than in some places. When Iowans are driving across the state this summer and looking out the window and pondering life, what do you want them to think about?
That I think our state is beautiful. I mean, even though we've changed its 99.9% of the landscape, there's so many beautiful places, and there's so many beautiful parks, and there's so many places to like enjoy wild nature. Get out there and enjoy it. Get out and feel it, and then write if you can, and that will send you to a new place, a transcendent place that's good.
Paul, thank you so much for talking with me.
You're welcome.
Paul Brooke is the newest poet laureate of the state of Iowa. His 10th book, Finding Meteorites in Antarctica, will publish this fall. He's an endowed chair and professor of English at Grandview University. Talk of Iowa is a production of IPR News. We had help today from Samantha McIntosh, Danny Gear, Nev Kelly, and Steve Cooper. I'm Charity Nebbe.